From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South, and I am Suni Gray. With just 2 days to go before Brazilians choose their next president, religious groups have protested against the far-right candidate, Jair Bolsonaro. The demonstration in Sao Paulo was called for on Facebook by a number of different faith groups. Their shared message was love will overcome hate, not him. The latest poll by Datafolha shows Bolsonaro's lead falling by 6 points. It gives him 56% compared with 44% for the Workers' Party candidate, Fernando Haddad.
In the name of God, who we believe in the name of Christ, who we follow, to ask that love overcome hate, because we believe that this candidate, Jair Bolsonaro, that today, unfortunately, is at the head of the polls, is being moved by hate.
Human rights groups are also making a last-ditch effort to convince people not to vote for the far-right candidates. They have expressed their fear over the rise in election-related violence, especially towards women, black people, and other vulnerable groups like the LGBT community. Observers have recorded at least 80 incidents of aggression related to the campaign, mostly by people claiming to support Bolsonaro.
He said, "What are you going to do?" Then he came up to me. He punches me hard here on my chest. He was agitated. He only stopped punching me because he was held back by people in his own group. But before leaving, they shouted, "Get out of here. Here everyone is Bolsonaro."
We have seen a very big escalation in violence related to these elections, and things are looking increasingly worse. 3 people have been murdered already, possibly linked to elections. A number of people have been physically assaulted. There are online aggressions and so on. It is very violent.
Meanwhile, Fernando Haddad has met with the head of the Organization of American States in Brazil for the election. At the meeting, they discussed fraud allegations and concerns over the spread of fake news during the campaign. Haddad once again criticized his opponent, Jair Bolsonaro's comments as inciting violence. The main worry for many Brazilian voters remains the economy and high unemployment. So how do the two candidates plan to create jobs? Our correspondent, Andre Vieira, is in Brazil and has the details.
Brazil is facing an unemployment crisis. 13 million people are jobless. Surely this will be a challenge for the next president. As a parliamentarian, Bolsonaro helped pass labor reforms. Now as a presidential candidate, he plans to let employees entering the labor market decide between the following new labor laws or negotiating their own contracts. On the other hand, Fernando Haddad promises to create a minimum wage recovery policy. He also sees employment as an effective means of reducing crime and violence. Bolsonaro was the only deputy who voted against the domestic workers' right bill. In the streets, far-right supporters disagree with such a move.
I think that this should not be like this, because the domestic servants are getting less pay, and their work should be highly valued. Just because they get 6,000 or 7,000 reales does not mean they have to lower the wages of those who may make, say, 800 reales. What can you really do with 800 reales?
If we think about it today, there are many unfriendly labor laws, because before I became a businessman, I was an average worker, and many of the laws just robbed workers.
Others like worker Tatiana Alves and technician Pedro Nieto will vote for the candidate and the proposal that will respect workers' rights.
Bolsonaro talks a lot of things and many things that I don't like. They don't want to allow street vendors to ply their trade. On the other hand, Haddad says he's going to raise the salaries of the poorest and it's going to continue with the Bolsa Familia project.
The labor plan that Haddad is proposing is what interests me most.
Brazil's largest trade union center at risk because Bolsonaro helped pass anti-worker labor reforms.
He voted for the withdrawal of workers' rights last year. So if you actually get a job, you aren't even guaranteed to have rights, and we can't have that. We want jobs and rights, and it's possible, as it has been in the past. It is possible to have decent job, an increase in the minimum wage, and job opportunities.
The future of this country is in the hands of the 147 million voters that will decide this Sunday, October 28th, on the future of South America's largest economy.
It's been a week since the first group of the Honduran migrant caravan began walking northwards through Mexico, and the strain is beginning to show. Our correspondent is with them.
For 7 days, they have been walking along this Pan-American highway. Exhaustion is setting in. They advance a few kilometers, then wait until a vehicle stops to hitch a ride. Litzy Johanna couldn't keep going. She feels tired, but she still hopes to reach the U.S. to help the family she left in Honduras.
I was able to get in touch with them, but not for several days, since I don't have my phone with me. If my mother can see this, I want to tell her not to worry about me, because I'm okay.
Those who are stronger and more agile quickly jump on the trucks, but families with children cannot do it. They keep going on foot.
We are traveling with a woman and a sick child, and with my daughter. We have to go slowly because if we go too fast, we won't make it. It's better to go slowly.
Local communities prepare to receive the caravan. They gather food, clothing, and medicines.
They need medical attention and food above all. Many have blisters from the walking and sunstroke. We had to send one to a rural hospital.
They have also set up shelters, especially for women, some of them pregnant, and for the children and adolescents.
Further south, more Honduran migrants are trying to join the caravan. Many of them lament the insecurity that they face in their home country.
This is a migrant house in the bordering municipality of Esuquipulas in Guatemala. Honduran migrants keep arriving to this place on their way to the United States. They say they are fleeing problems in their country that the government wants to hide.
They are not doing anything for poor families in Honduras. If you go to Honduras, you will be surprised by the misery, poverty, and lack of opportunities. Cameras have recorded thousands of people leaving because there's nothing in our country.
There is nothing in our country. We have no jobs, no security, so we migrate to another country hoping to find better opportunities.
In Honduras, as in most of the Central American countries, the situation is difficult. More than 67% of the people live in poverty, and close to half live in a situation of extreme poverty. Corruption and bad administrations are among the reasons, according to experts.
Now they are offering jobs and thousands of other things. But why don't they give us back the money that they stole for medicine and education? How can they think people are going to go back? People prefer to die on the way to the US than suffer from hunger with their children and families.
An example for this is the neglect of agriculture, a sector that produces a lot of jobs but is affected by imports.
We work, but we cannot sell the products. Everything is expensive because everything is bought with dollars. Fertilizers and everything we work with is expensive. Either we sell our products cheaper or we cannot even sell them at all. It is a very difficult situation.
The migrant caravan is full of people looking for a better life. Meanwhile, the Honduran government has said the caravan is funded by social movements and Venezuela.
This is all fake. Our president, along with Guatemala, Mexico, and the United States, don't want to take responsibility. Migrants do not leave because they don't want to work. We want to work. Otherwise, we wouldn't risk our lives on these roads.
Honduran authorities have deployed security forces after an order from the U.S. in an attempt to block migrants from leaving their country.
The U.S. President Donald Trump has said he is going to send the army to the border with Mexico as the migrant caravan gets closer. Trump described the situation as a national emergency, and the U.S. Secretary of Defense confirmed that 800 soldiers are being dispatched to the border. And there are reports that the United States is also considering a travel ban-like executive action that would block certain asylum seekers at the Mexican border. The proposal is said to be in the formative stages and could even be cast aside. But if President Trump approved such a plan, it would represent a dramatic escalation in border enforcement. A provision in the Immigration and Nationality Act allows the president to ban certain classes of immigrants from entering the country if they are deemed detrimental to the interests of the United States. Transparency International is urging the European Union to review some Caribbean countries' visa-free arrangements. In a recent report, the anti-corruption organization says the EU should consider following Canada's lead by suspending the visa waiver. It says recent events have raised red flags regarding the due diligence within the process in some of those territories. The report states that Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, Grenada, St. Kitts and Nevis, and St. Lucia offer a fast-track route to citizenship. Early in October, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development flagged 21 countries for offering so-called golden passports to wealthy applicants. Time now for a short break, but we'll have more news in a minute.
Acompañamos a los pueblos que resisten en cada una de sus luchas.
Somos esa ventana que se abre para visibilizarlos entre fronteras.
Thursdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Mexico is voting in a referendum on the new airport for the capital. President-elect Andrés Manuel López Obrador has asked citizens to participate in the consultation that will end on Sunday. AMLO, as he is commonly known, has suggested that construction could be cancelled due to its high cost, but he added the results of the referendum will be respected.
The government will respect whatever citizens decide freely and democratically. The government will also respect all existing contracts related to the project.
The Venezuelan government is condemning remarks made by the head of the European Commission about President Nicolas Maduro. During a news conference in Brussels on Wednesday, Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker said Maduro should be taken before an international court. In a statement, Venezuela's foreign ministry described Juncker's comments as destabilizing, hostile and nefarious, and it adds that any action that seeks to harm the dignity of the Venezuelan people will not be tolerated. And Venezuela has signed a commercial deal with Air Europa to boost tourism. The agreement will be backed by the petro, Venezuela's cryptocurrency. The alliance will include hotel investments and a commercial alliance with Venezuela's largest airline, Conviasa. It also includes cooperation with global tour operators, mainly European, and an administrative investment in some of Venezuela's international airports. The agreement with the European company is part of the South American country's program of recovery, growth and economic prosperity. President Evo Morales said that his political party, the Towards Socialism movement, has registered 1 million voters ahead of Bolivia's first primary election, which will take place next January. Our correspondent Freddy Morales is in Bolivia and he has more.
Morales was flanked by thousands of supporters. The deadline for all political parties to register all party members in the country was Wednesday. It's all part of Bolivia's new law, which also requires the country to hold primary elections. This will take place next January. Social movements appear to have already decided who they're going to vote for.
For us, it is irrevocable. That is decided in Congress at the national level.
President Evo Morales, even if he doesn't want to be candidate, he has to listen to people and social movements.
There is no way back. We have already decided in Congress.
President Evo Morales says his party has surpassed its goal of registering 1 million members. Morales calls them his militants.
There has been registrations of new and old militants following the Electoral Supreme Court ruling. And I have been informed there are more registration books coming from all over the country.
Meanwhile, the Constitutional Court has given President Morales the green light to present his candidacy for presidential re-election. That will take place at the end of 2019.
I am sure, brothers and sisters, that with this massive show of support for registered members, the socialist movement, which is an instrument for sovereignty, is going to keep leading the way. We are sure that we will continue transformation we started, and this will be done in the best interest of the Bolivian people.
So now that Bolivians have registered party membership for the first time, the country readies itself for its first primary polls next January.
Salvadorian President Salvador Sanchez-Cerén has met with his Cuban counterpart Miguel Diaz-Canel in Havana. Sanchez-Cerén is on a 5-day official visit to Cuba. Diplomatic relations between the two Central American nations were restored in 2009 with the arrival of the FMLN, the Farabunto Multi-National Liberation Front. They share cooperation in areas of health, culture, and the environment. The death toll for the El Mozote massacre has been revised upward to 1,725. The government of El Salvador confirms the additional 1,000 victims. In 1981, during the Salvadorian Civil War, the army killed more than 1,700 men, women, and children. The InterAmerican Court of Human Rights has condemned Guatemala for violating the rights of 49 HIV-positive patients. The court ruled that the state violated the rights to their health, personal integrity, judicial guarantees, and judicial protection. The state was also found to have discriminated against 2 pregnant women living with HIV when it failed to provide them with adequate medical attention. The state must now pay compensation to the victims or to their families. Argentina has organized the first Football World Cup for players with dwarfism. The tournament aims to highlight discrimination against dwarves and promote their social integration. Teams from Bolivia, Chile, Paraguay, Morocco, the United States, and Canada are participating in the event, which will last until October 28th. The matches are being played on indoor pitches, which are small in size and feature lower goalposts.
Our condition is one of the most discriminated against in the world, and that is what is being changed. That concept they had about us. Now they can see that we play football, and we are also ready to work and study.
Many years ago, I never dreamed that one day I was going to play an official football game, so we are fulfilled in a very big way.
We're going to take a short break now. More news after this.
The Pakistani journalist Tariq Ali examines the mass media influence promoted by imperialism. Get access to the analysis of the socio-economic and political life of the whole South America on our screen and platform in English. A critical place committed to the truth to determine the major events that transform the world today. Mondays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. At least 14 children were stabbed at a kindergarten in China. A woman wielding a kitchen knife stormed the building and launched the attack. At least 2 children succumbed to their injuries while the others remain hospitalized. The perpetrator has since been arrested. She reportedly told the police she was mistreated by the Chinese government, but it's still not clear why she targeted those children. Rescue and recovery efforts continue after 19 people were killed in flash floods near the Dead Sea in Jordan. Most of them were students and their teachers who were in a bus that was swept away. The vehicle was carrying 37 middle school pupils and 7 members of staff to Hot Springs. Just over 30 people were eventually brought to safety during a dramatic rescue operation. Rescuers are hoping that the death toll will not rise.
There was a school trip of 37 female and male students with 7 supervisors, meaning there are 44 people in this location. The water came up strongly for 4 to 5 kilometers, which is the location that is between the pool and the bridge, and near the beginning of the Dead Sea. There were people who ended up in the sea water, and there were people who managed to reach the rocks and save themselves. Thank God we managed to save 13 people without any injuries.
One United Nations expert believes that the Saudi state is responsible for the murder of the journalist Jamal Khashoggi.
Quite possible for the state to wash its hands from the behavior of those actors, whether or not somebody even higher up has requested those acts. You know, where do we stop where do we begin, where do we stop our construction of the state? They were representing the state when they acted as they acted. The state cannot wash its hands from its responsibilities.
So it doesn't matter whether the Crown Prince or the King say they didn't know?
Of course it matters, but that does not mean that the Saudi state is not responsible.
Meanwhile, people gathered outside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul had a candlelight vigil demanding justice for the murdered journalist. One man with his hands painted red wore a mask depicting the face of the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Others carried cardboard images of Khashoggi's face and signs reading they were friends of Khashoggi.
When the news was leaked and we heard that he was killed, I felt very sad for the loss of such a fair journalist. We're all journalists and we are all following the same path, calling for freedom of expression. We're also living abroad, so everyone is afraid that they might face the same fate as Jamal Khashoggi.
My daughter asked me why we were coming here today, so I told her that this is for humanity and that we stand against the incident that happened.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has confirmed that the chief prosecutor of Saudi Arabia will be coming to Turkey to contribute to the investigation of the murder of the journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Erdogan has expressed his frustration over Riyadh's response to the case.
That he was killed is now evident, but where is he? You know to show his body.
Tıpkı Yunus gibi. Bu çocukça açıklamalar.
There have been childish statements, statements far from state seriousness.
Hiçbir manası merak edenlere
Without giving them the originals, we share our information and documents with those who were interested. We share them with Saudi Arabia.
The former South African President Jacob Zuma's son's culpable homicide trial has been postponed until January 2019. Duduzane Zuma appeared in court with his father on Friday over charges relating to a fatal car accident in 2014 at night when he drove his Porsche into a minibus, killing 2 people and injuring 3 others. Duduzane will also be tried for charges related to bribery. China and Japan have signed agreements to strengthen cooperation during Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's groundbreaking 3-day visit to Beijing. Abe and China's Vice Premier Liu He inked a $30 billion US currency swap deal amid rising trade tensions with the United States. Relations between the 2 countries have been strained since diplomatic relations resumed in 1972. Heavy flooding in Russia has killed 6 people and another 1 person remains missing after torrential rains hit its coast of its Black Sea coast. Around 500 people have been evacuated. According to local police, more than 2,000 homes have been destroyed by the floods. And well, if you have nightmares about the earth opening up and swallowing you, you might want to look away now. 2 Turkish women were swallowed by a collapsing pavement. CCTV footage shows the women, one a doctor and the other a nurse, disappearing under a cloud of smoke, or dust actually. Bystanders rushed to their assistance and pulled them out of the hole. Fortunately, they're okay, but they did sustain minor injuries. We've come to the end of this news brief. For these and many other stories, you should find them on our website at telus4tv.net/English. You can also join us on social media because we are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Tell Us Your English, I'm Suni Gray. Thank you for watching.